Today on the Hey, Why Don't We Do Some Testing Says podcast, I'm going to be testing whether you really should avoid using shotgun microphones for indoor use. I'll share a real-world benefit of producing YouTube videos and other stuff too, so go ahead and stick around if you want to and that sounds interesting. If not, just move on and go about your day. Let's dive into the meat and taters of this episode. Should you avoid shotgun microphones for indoor use? The reason I want to address this is I recently put out a series of videos for producing great online audio, my new series, and when I was discussing distance miking indoors, I suggested getting either a small diaphragm condenser or a shotgun microphone. That's where we start to get an issue because I got a bit of pushback on that statement. A lot of people said, no, you should not get a shotgun microphone for indoor use. I have also heard this from a number of other people, Curtis Judd, SoundSpeeds, Alan. Many people I have heard say you shouldn't use shotgun microphones indoors. I never really understood why. So instead of just blindly testing stuff, I spoke to SoundSpeeds, Alan, and I spoke to Curtis Judd. Huge thank you to both of them for sharing their expertise and their knowledge, and based on what they told me, I came up with what I wanted to test to see if we really run into issues using shotgun microphones indoors, and if I need to amend my recommendation. As far as get a shotgun microphone if you're miking yourself 12 inches away, even if you're indoors. So let's go ahead and jump to some testing, and let's hear, should you avoid using shotgun microphones indoors? The first test that I want to do is a standard overhead miking position. So right now I have the microphones about 12 inches from my mouth, overhead, angled directly at my mouth. The MKH-416 has 37 decibels of gain. The Neumann KMS-184 has 40 decibels of gain. I'll be quiet so you can hear the noise floor of each. Also, I want to point out that I have the fronts of the microphones aligned. So the front of the SDC is aligned with the front of the shotgun microphone. This is after discussing with a boom operator by the name of SoundSpeeds that for this comparison, I should line up the fronts of the mics. So this is the standard position. That should be enough talking, enough of a sample. Let's do a few tests. Now let's do a very basic distance test and see how the shotgun microphone fares against the SDC. So right now I am about 14 inches off of both microphones. I will switch between them and let you hear how it sounds. Does it sound pretty directional? Does one do a better job rejecting the room tone and the reverb? That's what you should be listening for. Let me back up a bit. Now I'm about 2 feet away from the microphone, so I will switch between the shotgun microphone. This is the MKH-416. Now I am on the Neumann KMS-184, I believe, the cardioid SDC. Here is the MKH-416, and again, here is the KM-184. That is 2 feet away. Does one do a better job or a worse job at directionality, making it sound direct, as well as rejecting the reflections and reverb? And now I'm about 4 feet away from the microphones. I understand nobody will be or should be miking this far away from a sound source, especially indoors, but I like putting these mics in worst case scenarios to try to understand the limits of them and also try to understand the characteristics, because those characteristics become much more apparent when they are put in very stressful and difficult situations. So here is the MKH-416. This is the shotgun microphone, which you shouldn't use indoors. And this is the Neumann KM-184 cardioid small diaphragm condenser. Something that many people say is what you should use indoors. Use a cardioid or hypercardioid SDC as opposed, I switched back to the MKH416, as opposed to using a shotgun microphone. Those are all the distance tests. I don't know if I have more to do or not. I don't know how this was edited. Let's do something. Now we're doing a little bit of a weird test. I have both microphones pointed directly downwards at my desk, which is a reflective surface. I am also speaking directly at the desk, so my voice is going to be bouncing off of the desk and making its way back into each of the microphones. And the reason I'm doing this is I have heard some people say that you shouldn't use shotguns indoors because of how directional they are. They will almost reach out and grab the reflections. So I wanted to see, does the shotgun actually pick up more reflections of my voice off of the desk, or does it sound the same as the SDC? That should be enough of a sample here. Let's do another one. Now I have both microphones about eye level with me, and they are angled down so I can speak kind of past the sides of them. And the reason I want to try this is I want to see if speaking past the side of the shotgun microphone causes any kind of phase issues, if it causes any issues because of the interference tube. So I will just keep talking and move around the microphones a little bit to see if we get any kind of strange phasing on the shotgun microphone. So I will just keep talking and move around the microphones a little bit to see if we get any kind of strange phasing on the shotgun microphone versus the SDC. Does the interference tube and do all of those slots actually lead to an issue with sounds making it into the sides of it? That's what I wanted to hear with this demo. Now I have these mics in an absolutely horrible setup. I am under booming them, and they are not angled at my mouth. They are angled directly at my chest, and they are about 2 to 3 inches off of the desk. So we should be getting quite a few reflections off of that surface. I'll just go ahead and keep talking and move around and see if we get any kind of phasing issues on either of the microphones. If what I have heard is true, then we should be hearing some kind of phasing issues or some kind of worse performance out of the shotgun microphone as compared to the small diaphragm condenser. So this is a terrible situation, but we have one even worse to try out. Finally, you can see my face, but the last test I am doing is I have both microphones pointed directly down at the desk, but they are also directly next to my monitor. Another reason I've heard people say you shouldn't use a shotgun microphone indoors is because of phasing issues. So I wanted to try out a worst case scenario and put them directly next to a super reflective surface and see if my voice coming in from one side and bouncing off of the other side causes any kind of phasing issues on either of the microphones, and see if the SDC, which is in cardioid or is cardioid, actually performs better than the MKH416 shotgun microphone. There you go. Those are all of the tests. I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to hear what you heard in those tests. Did you hear the issues that you were expecting? Did the shotgun microphone perform worse indoors as compared to a cardioid small diaphragm condenser? Once you have done that, I will share what I heard. First thing I noticed, the SDC, the small diaphragm condenser, definitely picked up more reflections, definitely sounded more roomy, definitely had more reverb. That could be easily mitigated by, instead of using the KM184, which is the cardioid, go with the KM185, which is the super or hypercardioid. But I wanted to go with the more common polar pattern cardioid, so That was worse than it could have been. I could have improved that by using a different polar pattern SDC. The second thing I noticed, suffering Thakatash. How does that keep happening? I think by actually making a podcast, I am developing a speech impediment. This is actually starting to concern me. Why does that continue to happen? The second thing I noticed is when you go off axis from a shotgun microphone, you lose so much of the detail. A lot of that top end, a lot of those higher frequencies are just lost. But with the small diaphragm condenser, it retained a lot of that upper frequency detail, and it seemed to be quite a bit more forgiving in terms of having the ability to move around a little bit and not lose that good sound. Shotgun microphones do seem to be, this is no surprise to anybody, they do seem to be incredibly directional. And if you go off axis, if you get off to the side, it is going to be noticeable. With an SDC, a cardioid SDC, you have a lot more wiggle room to go around it and get slightly off axis while still maintaining quite a good sound. The third thing I noticed, I almost did it again. There is definitely some disgusting sounds once you get around to the side of the shotgun microphone. Once your voice starts making it into the interference tube at different intervals, I did hear some disgusting frequencies. I did hear that roll off of the higher frequencies. You lose all of that detail. So if you aren't directly on axis, that can be a problem. And if you do have reflections making it into the side of the shotgun microphone, that will also be colored by that disgusting off-axis sound, that off-axis coloration. So that is maybe one big reason why people say that, because the sides do sound bad. And if you're next to a reflective surface, that's going to make it into the recording. That terrible sound will be captured. But then we get to number 4. This is what I was looking for. When the shotgun microphone and the SDC were near my desk, they both sounded terrible, that is undeniable, but I did start to hear some phasing issues and some comb filtering effects on the shotgun microphone, while the SDC still sounded bad, but it didn't have that same kind of out-of-phasey cancellation artifacting that I heard on the shotgun microphone. So now that I have actually done the testing and heard what people are talking about, I have some thoughts, because I understand why people say don't use shotgun microphones indoors, but I am not 100% sold on that blanket statement. I think it's slightly more nuanced than that. If you are a boom operator and you're queuing back and forth and moving around a lot while you're filming and recording audio, I get it, because you may have to put the microphone near a wall, near a ceiling, and you are going to encounter the reflections off of that surface, and then that will color the audio by making it into the side and sounding terrible. You may also get those phasing issues. That is if you are constantly having to move around and follow actors or hosts or whatever. So I understand completely and agree with that completely. Where I don't necessarily agree is if you can just have a static overhead shot and the microphone isn't directly next to any kind of reflective surfaces, and your main goal with the microphone selection is reducing the amount of room tone and reflections and reverb that are captured in the recording, I still think a shotgun could probably be the right choice. You could get decent sound with an SDC. It's just going to be a little bit roomier. So if you are able to have that static microphone position and it's not next to any kind of reflective surfaces like a wall or a desk, I think a lot of the issues that I encountered, that I heard, are kind of avoidable. or they could be mostly avoided if you're careful with your microphone placement and the environment you're using it in. One issue would persist. That would be the insane directionality of a shotgun microphone. You need to be very diligent about staying on axis, because once you start to get off axis, your voice is going to start to hit the side of the interference tube, hit those slots, and then that's when I started to hear that kind of funky off-axis sound. So that issue still persists, even if you're away from reflective surfaces. So if you don't care about or want to worry about microphone technique, and you want a little bit more forgiveness and you're okay with a little bit more room tone and reverb, then I suppose an SDC would probably be the best fit. But that is the conclusion of that. I have been putting that off for a while because I've just been kind of lazy, but I am really glad that I did that because I wanted to actually hear what the issues are. Why people say don't use shotgun microphones indoors. I understand it now, and I understand who is going to really struggle with those issues, but I think for some people it still could work. Maybe that's the wrong take, I don't know, but based on my tests, that seems to make sense. Let me know what your thoughts are, because I know that's going to be a contentious topic. Should you avoid shotgun microphones for indoor use? Let me know in the comments down below. Now let's jump to a completely random topic, which is really going to highlight how neurotic you can become when you record and edit your own show. While I was listening back to last week's episode of the podcast, I noticed that I kept saying the term joy. I kept saying joy. Joy, seeking joy, feeling... Shut up, Bandrew. How about you expand your vocabulary and come up with a different word? So I am going to try to shift away from using the term joy for a number of reasons. Number one, I found it incredibly annoying. I need to expand my vocabulary. I need to have other words to describe what I am seeking. Secondly, there has been a political party who has really adopted and come to love the term joy. And I want nothing to do with them. I do not want to be associated with the party of joy. So that's another reason. But the real reason is joy isn't the proper term to describe what I've been seeking, what I've been pursuing. The proper words that I should have been using are fulfillment, contentment, and accomplishment. Those are much more fitting for what I've been pursuing, what I have been working towards. I came up with a couple of definitions. I looked up a couple. I wanted to make sure I was using the right words. For accomplishment, I view that as the rewarding feeling you get, knowing that you worked hard, you put your all in, and you were able to complete a task to the best of your ability. For fulfillment, the definition I found was the achievement of something desired, promised, or predicted. That's good and all, but I think of it more as that feeling when you find your purpose and you spend time working towards executing that purpose, to fulfilling that purpose. I know you can't use the word to define the word, but to actually executing on your purpose. That's where I find fulfillment. And contentment, I view that as being satisfied and at peace. Not wanting anything, not missing anything, not having this underlying need for anything, just being completely at peace, which I am not right now because you're revving your engine outside. Shut up. So right now, I need to be at peace. I need to focus on Zen, on contentment. So that is just a completely random topic, and I want to share that because I find this type of discussion interesting. Hey, the word I've been using has been incorrect. Here is why, and here are the words that I should have been using, and then I can throw in a little bit of a political jab. I want nothing to do with them. I think they seem stupid. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I don't know. That is all the topics. Those are all the topics I wanted to discuss. Now let's jump to what I've been testing. Say it with me. I am on the Shure. Hello, Shure KSM44A. I don't think a high-pass filter is on, and there is no pad on. I am on the cardioid polar pattern. I'm not re-reviewing this. I reviewed this years ago. It's just something that came up in voice chat. I had it out because it will be in a video in the coming months probably, and I just wanted to throw it on the stand and use it. It may not be as smooth as an 87 or anything. I've heard somebody on the older K44, not the 44A, and that mic sounded much smoother than the 44A. But I still think this is a great sounding microphone, very functional, and I think it's less than 1/3 the cost of an 87. So for a flagship condenser, I'd say that's pretty solid. That's a pretty solid price. It's still a boatload of money though. But that's what I'm using. Now let's jump to what you had to say. First comment comes from MEI Studio New York, aka Pags. He says, just a thought regarding the subscription to feeds thing. Videos broken down by playlists is how I do it. My mod videos go under Bench Tips playlist. Mic stuff goes under a playlist, and shorts go under another playlist. Pags, thank you very much for the comment, and thank you for the suggestion. Creating playlists to avoid bombarding subscribers with different types of videos, I don't think that would resolve the underlying issue. The underlying issue with publishing all these different types of content to one channel is, number one, the subscription feed gets flooded. Number two, not every subscriber wants to see all of that content. So when they are recommended those videos, even not on their subscription tab, they are less likely to click on it. And three, shorts are just super annoying. I did try publishing one on Podcastage to see how that goes because I thought it was an interesting way to approach shorts. Just do a quick blind microphone comparison, disclose which microphone was which in the description, and also have it linked directly to the full video. So I think those are the underlying issues, and those still persist, even if you do utilize playlists, which I do, because I am a certified playlist fiend. Take a shot in the dark. How many playlists do you think Podcastage has? 5? 10? 20? 30? Nay. 39 playlists. I have... that may be too many. I have 39 playlists on that channel. Shotgun microphone reviews, lavalier microphone reviews, ENG mic reviews, broadcast dynamic mic reviews, versus series Q&A, producing great online audio series, handheld condenser mic reviews. I break down mic reviews by price range, 0 to 10, 10 to 25, 25 to 50, 50 to 100, 1 to 250, 250 to 500. I think that's how I break it down. I am a fiend for playlists. And I will throw a link to the playlists of the channel. But I do that because I think that allows people to find the exact content that they're looking for. When I started out, a lot of comments I got were, hey, what's the best microphone in this price range? So instead of having to reply to every single comment and say, check out these videos, which one do you like better? I opted to give them the information up front. Here are a bunch of mic reviews between 20 and 50 bucks. Go watch them. Decide for yourself. So I have been a playlist fiend from pretty much day one, and I'm never going back. But a lot of the issues with publishing a bunch of different types of content to one channel would still persist, and it would still potentially have negative impact on the channel's performance due to lack of interest, lack of click-through from your existing subscribers and from the people who are recommended them. So that's my take, but thank you very much for the suggestion. Also, if anybody is looking for fantastic microphone reviews, go check out Pags, MEI Studio NY on YouTube. Just incredible stuff. The standards he has are crazy. Awesome videos. Next, we have a comment from Dracomes, and he says, agree with this 1000%. We're super fascinated about audio, but sometimes my friends, IRL, and family just don't have the same passion. But it's super refreshing to hear about audio stuff from a bunch of online people on Discord who feel the same way I do. So yes, agree 100%, it's about the community. And yes, second, it's about improvement. Why not make improvements? There's a simple quote I heard often as a kid by my uncle, the more you do something, the better you get at it. It's that simple, end quote. And that's no different here too. Dracomes, thank you very much for the comment. That quote is great. It is accurate. The more you do something, the more you practice, the better you're going to get at it. That is almost always inevitable, unless you're me and guitar. No matter how much you practice, you're never going to progress past that plateau. You're stuck. You're stuck in purgatory. Deal with it, bud. Accept it. This is as good as you're ever going to get. Just make do with the skill and the ability that you have and quit whining about it, you big old baby. So other than that situation, I agree with that quote. I think that is very accurate. The more you do something, the better you will get at it. The real reason I wanted to include this is because I love Dracomies' channel, Dracomies. Go check it out on YouTube. The reason I love it, it's like a channel made just for me, which is what I love about YouTube. It is so niche, you can find channels that seem as though they are made exclusively for your interests. The reason I'm saying that, he covers microphones and audio gear, check, love it. Covers everyday carry gear, check, love it. And he even occasionally talks about finances and budgetary stuff. Check. Love it. That's this channel. That's this podcast. Audio gear, everyday carry gear, content creation, and then the occasional money talk. Like, that's my stuff. And that's what makes YouTube so exciting and so much fun. And I love Dracomies' channel, so go check it out. If you like that kind of stuff, really awesome channel. All right, let's jump to the next comment from Oscar. He says, I think the best aspect of pursuing success as a hobbyist is that you learn stuff along the way that you wouldn't otherwise. As a guitarist back from my first guitar cover all the way until now, I've learned a lot about videography, video editing, color grading, music writing, recording, and mixing. The last of which I got so passionate about that it led up to me getting 3 jobs as a live sound engineer. So basically, I started a live sound career just because one day I thought it would be fun to make a guitar cover for YouTube, which was quite bad, by the way. Oscar, thank you very much for the comment, and thank you for sharing your experience and journey. That is amazing that one day you just started making YouTube videos and you fell in love with one aspect that goes into it and were able to flow that into a job. You pursued a career out of making YouTube videos. That is just amazing. In my opinion, all of the skills that you gain from making YouTube videos is one of the biggest benefits of doing this. Yes, it can be a lot of fun to make the videos. You can also meet your weirdos, meet your community through producing videos on your specific interests and niche. But one of the most marketable benefits of producing videos is all of the skills that you gain from doing it. Now, if you outsource a lot of the jobs and a lot of the tasks on your YouTube channel, this isn't really going to apply to you, but you are likely gaining managerial experience, and that in and of itself is marketable. But I came up with a list of positions that I think the solo YouTuber fills that may lead to or provide marketable skills in the future. You're essentially the producer, the writer, the cinematographer, the lighting person, the audio engineer, the editor, the the social media marketer, etc., etc., etc. And I am sure I left off about a dozen positions and a dozen roles that us solo YouTubers and podcasters fill. Because we do so much, it's easy to just write them off as just, oh, that's something I do. So let me know in the comments down below, what did I forget? What is something that's important to your production that you do, that you think is a really marketable skill? Now I want to share a personal anecdote about how making YouTube videos had a direct impact on my day-to-day life, my real world, my day job. In my day job, I have to give financial presentations to people who are kind of high up at my company, and after my last presentation, I got 3 IMs from 3 different people saying, "Wow, that was really good. You did a great job with that presentation. You sound so confident on the microphone. You sound so natural on the microphone. How in the world were you not nervous presenting to this person?" 2 secrets. Number 1, why wouldn't I be nervous presenting to my boss's 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 boss? Of course I was nervous. Second, I prepared a lot. I made notes on my slides, I knew exactly what I wanted to cover, and I read through it a couple of times before actually presenting. But where YouTube comes into play is I have made over 1,000 videos talking onto a microphone, or talking into a microphone, I'm talking onto a mic. How would that work? 1,000 videos plus talking on a microphone, talking on a camera. That is a lot of practice. I also wasn't happy with my presenting style with sounding spontaneous, so instead of only recording when I was producing videos, I recorded daily. For a year and a half, I think. I have 500 recordings just talking onto a microphone to get better, to sound more natural. And that is how producing YouTube videos actually had an impact on my everyday life. It got me recognized by people at my work. They went out of their way to compliment me. Wow, you did such a good job. And that is the culmination of years and years of making these videos in the evening. Years and years of practicing. And also, just a fun side note, there was some kind of study, I think it was Harvard, maybe not Harvard. Somebody did a study. You are more trustworthy if you sound good. So it's worth investing in decent sounding audio equipment if you give presentations, because that will lead to you sounding more trustworthy. Or maybe not sounding more trustworthy, but people perceiving you as more trustworthy. I just had to share that because I always find it amazing when these skills we gain from making YouTube videos, from making podcasts, translate their way into the real world, and we see those tangible benefits, and it's really rewarding, or at least I find it really rewarding, and I think most people would, when you actually get compliments on that, when you get recognized for all the hard work that you've done. So thank you very much for sharing your experience, Oscar. I appreciate you, and I hope that inspires somebody to actually just go ahead and make the YouTube video, make the podcast. You can see real-world benefit from the skills you gain working on those hobbies, working on those side gigs. Maybe if you work in corporate jobs, don't start some kind of podcast that's super edgy, because yes, that can still have a real-world impact, but maybe a negative impact. So just keep that in mind as well. Be careful with the information you share, because it can bite you in the rear end. All right, that is it for what you had to say. Now we are jumping to value for value, because this is a V for V podcast. But first and foremost, water break. As I mentioned, this is a value for value podcast. What that means is I do not put ads on this show. I do not put it behind a paywall. I just put it out there. And if you get any value out of this, I just ask that you return that, whether it be time, talent, or treasure. Here, I typically focus only on the treasure contributions for this show, but I want to make a suggestion. If you don't want to contribute financially, this is a long-form show where I cover a lot of different topics. That means this does not do well in the YouTube algorithm. So my suggestion is, if you don't want to contribute financially, maybe just share it with somebody that you think would enjoy this, that there may be a bit of information that they can benefit from. Just pass this along to a friend who may enjoy it. That really does help the show, and I just don't have the energy to print out flyers and start going down to venues again. That's not going to happen. I'm too old for that. At this age, it's sad. It's sad when you see somebody my age outside a venue. Come to my show. Check out my podcast. Check out my podcast. So that's a great way to support the show if you don't want to or can't or are unwilling to contribute financially. We have one super thanks this week. It is €50 from the not proprietor. I always want to call him the proprietor, the benefactor of the BSP, Rainer Richter. He says, Danke. Rainer, thank you so much for the €50 and thank you for the continued support. It really does mean the world to me. I deeply appreciate it. It helps keep the bills paid, and perhaps it will help pay for my speech therapy sessions to avoid developing some sort of speech impediment. Because that seems to be something that continues to occur. So, thank you so much. I can't roll my R with that voice. Thank you very much, Raina. I really do appreciate it. That is it for value. Now we are jumping to the weekly recommendation algorithm. And before I recommend this, I must go grab it. My recommendation this week are oranges. I have not had an orange in a very long time. I don't know what made me make this decision, but I was at the grocery and I thought, hey, orange. So I bought a bag of oranges. I threw them in my fridge, and then the next morning, after I had my eggs for breakfast, I cut up an orange. Man, I miss these things so much. They are so delicious. I don't know if they're super good for you, but man, are they good. One of my favorite beverages is orange juice. I don't buy it because I will drink a gallon of OJ in an hour, and then my mouth will be on fire from all the acid. But this is a nice treat. This is a treat that's hard to beat. For breakfast, I honestly got transported back to, 1997. It made me feel as though I had just finished a soccer game. I ran off to the cooler that the moms bring to the game, and you're hoping, ooh, did they bring fruit snacks? And then they pull out a bag of sliced up oranges that are ice cold, and it is one of the best things ever. And you wonder, why the hell would anybody want fruit snacks? This orange is delicious. And then you would put a slice in your mouth and then smile, and you had this orange smile. That's what happened when I tasted an orange for the first time in a long time. Because I never really bought oranges that much. The only time I think I would eat sliced oranges was after a soccer game. I would enjoy bananas. I would eat apples at home. But it was always too much work to cut up the orange. I am a changed man. That is why my recommendation is go get some oranges from the grocery, put them in your refrigerator, make sure they're cold, and then slice it up after you have your breakfast, and that's your treat, because that is a treat that's hard to beat. After getting back into fruit, I know this sounds like a crazy person's ramblings, and perhaps it is. Maybe this will be admitted to court. See, he should be locked up. He is a crazy person. But after cutting out all of the candy, all of the sugar, all the nonsense, and getting a Honeycrisp apple, it kind of broke my brain because I realized this is like candy. This is delicious. This is so sweet. This is like a dessert. Why would I ever need anything else? Why would I need a cake? Why would I need a bag of Skittles? Why would I need any of that? I don't. Because the apple is good enough. The banana is good enough. The orange... is one of the greatest things in existence. Proof that God exists. The fact that oranges exist. Thank you, God, for this gift you have provided us. We don't deserve it. We don't deserve you, so thank you very much. That's it. That's my weekly recommendation. And that is going to conclude this week's episode of the, what did I call it? Hey, let's test stuff or something like that. That is this week's episode. I'm going to put this orange down or I will start throwing it. Thank you so much for coming by and spending your time watching any amount of this show. I hope I'm on Axis. I'm not wearing headphones right now. I know you could spend your time doing anything, so the fact that you spend 5, 10, 20, 30, 45 minutes watching this show really does mean the world to me, and I try not to take that for granted. I hope you got some value out of this. I hope you learned something. I hope you had fun. Maybe I made you laugh. Maybe I changed your life by recommending oranges, because my life was changed by buying oranges. Never again will I buy orange juice. Why would I need that when the orange is just perfect? I tried navel oranges and now I have a cara. I think that's what it is. What's your favorite type of orange? Let me know in the comments. But thank you very much. I hope you have an amazing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Next Sunday, I will be back. I will be talking at you, with you, about you. I love you. Bye-bye. Whoa. Whoa. Boop.
This has been a Geeks Rising production. Your executive producer is Bandrew Scott. For more information, head over to www.geeksrising.com.